Now, as I said, in astronomy, we use an observational technique when we're going to study a particular area of stars, or even going down a particular area, that we start with something known as a general survey. And a general survey is simply is a wide shot. That doesn't have to. It's really random in terms of where you pick to take your shot, to take the picture. And the point is to get as many main reference stars as you can in that picture there. So it's a wide field shot, because it's not zoomed in, it's not focused on any one thing particular, but you're looking at a larger field. So it's sort of the overview of things. It's from the wide field survey. That's what they call it, a wide field survey, rather than just a photograph, because you go in and you identify the stars, you chart them out, and you decide from there where you want to go next in terms of your focus. And this is sort of the path we're going to take here, is that we're going to look at sort of do a survey first, a wide field survey, and then as we go through the wide field survey, we're going to start focusing in on very specific parts of Linux to develop. So we're going. My development work is an Android-like data. But the first immediate goal, the first step to that goal is Cyborg Alpha. That's why Cyborg Alpha exists. That's sort of the first step. So we are now at the development stage. We now have our platform Linux. Now we have to do a general overview of the environment. And what I've seen is that there are an enormous number of choices for the Linux BSD.UNIX environment. Huge environment there. And so my choice, as I looked through and tried out some of the different flavors, was particularly the Ubuntu platform. That's where I started. And then I eventually migrated over to the Ubuntu platform. The difference between the two is that while both run an X desktop, one has a GNOME GDK desktop, that's the Ubuntu, and Ubuntu has the KDE desktop. These are two various different types of desktops that exist within this environment. I've looked at BSD, I've looked at OpenBSD, I've looked at FreeBSD, I've looked at Red Hat, Fedora, and SUSE. I've looked at them in terms of in terms of what they have to offer for Linux. And after looking around, my choice was to say, let's stick specifically with the Ubuntu platform, and more specifically the Ubuntu platform. What I had ended up noticing was that although the environments, as we started going in further and further, had their differences, there was a lot of similarities that you could mix and match between the environments. You could bring elements of BSD into Ubuntu Linux. You could bring elements of Unix into Ubuntu Linux. You could bring, the choices of mix and match really didn't seem to have any boundaries. But part of the problem that came with it is that this infinite, well, not infinite, but extremely large choices of combination weren't always well documented. So that you could end up with a combination that when you upgraded from one version of the operating system to the next version of the operating system, it could cause your entire system to crash and hang, and you'd have to wipe everything up and start all over again, simply because the upgrade is assuming one configuration while you have something that was totally not anticipated. And this is what I had been experiencing with my first experiences with Ubuntu. Is I found it very difficult upgrading from version to version until I developed a protocol that made it significantly easier. And now going from 10.4 to going from 11.4 to 11.10 was no significant issues in terms of that I had to redo the entire system in order to get things working properly. I did redo one entire system. That was in the backroom system, but that was because it was because I was trying to get the Ubuntu desktop working on a netbook, which is not designed for the netbook, so I did my own modifications. And the modifications sort of worked, and I ended up having to do a workaround. When I upgraded to 11.10, I realized that I didn't need the modifications anymore. So my decision was, because I had everything backed up anyways, wipe it out. And that's what it is. I wiped out the whole thing and reinstalled on the back netbook and took out the workaround because I had resolved the problems and was able to get the Ubuntu desktop working on the netbook, and that's the way I have it now without the workaround. So I have the full KDE back desktop working on an Asus. I think it's the triple E version. I have a full Ubuntu desktop working on there, rather than having the netbook on there. That was my choice. I do prefer the desktop like the way it is like that. I do in comparison between GNOME and KDE. I prefer the KDE desktop to the GNOME desktop. So, from this user perspective here, going from the general down to the more specifics, this puts me in the developer environment that I want to be focusing specifically on the KDE environment. Now, when you look at the KDE environment, what you will find is that a number of the programs that are the better programs are in the GNOME environment known as GTK. And the GTK programs will actually operate better even in the KDE environment than KDE products. I'll give an example. There's this KDE media player called Caffeine. It's supposed to work with the file processing systems known as KIO, which come with Dolphin. Dolphin is the file manager for KDE, and it's supposed to be, and the Dolphin itself is network aware and everything. And any program that is designed to work with KDE should be Dolphin aware and should be fully network aware. Yet most of the programs that I've found on KDE are not network aware. Which ones are network aware and work properly with the network? Well, they are the ones on the GTK platform, the GNOME desktop platform, and the one that I found that was the best was a program called Totem that uses GStreamer as a background. That one I can listen to watch media files from anywhere on the network without any issues. Where if I go into even a program like VLC, a media program like VLC is supposed to be designed for the network, but it's completely network incapable. Every time you go across the network, you bring up a file on the network, it tells you you can only select local files only. Now, this is not what you're supposed to be seeing if you're supposed to be working in an open environment. If you are a video player that's supposed to work across the network, then it should be network pluggable right from the startup. But this isn't always the case when you're getting with open source. Open source, sometimes you have significant problems where the code isn't fully developed. If they're looking at it from a coder's perspective where they really haven't done a good overview, they may not be aware of other issues, even though they have these bug trackers online that sort of you're supposed to be able to track the bugs that occur in the system. You're supposed to be able to track them, but I've found that when a program fails and you're supposed to fill out this feedback to tell the people what the bug problem was, that the feedback itself fails and fails to send the bug, send the information on the bug. So if your bug tracking program fails, you're not going to get any information back to the main area of the bug pages.